Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Boop. There they are. Nice to see them. Oh, yeah, I needed to move this. I needed to do that. There we go. I did not intentionally cover the men's faces in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to have my kids' stuff and this stuff all there together. So let's try and work on that. Maybe we'll put that here. So they got my back the entire time. There. Maybe that will work better for everybody. I got a note saying, "Hey, did you cover their faces?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. I wanted my monkey there for my son." So there, enjoy that, everybody. We'll keep it there for now. Good morning, good week. Hello to a new week. It's quite the weekend. I got lots of relaxation and stuff in there. Good morning to John. Good morning to Yellowhead Yacht Club. Jace, Paula, and all the stuffed beavers out there. Thank you, John. Is there a morning coffee from Clay? Good morning, Prairie. Nice to see you. There's my flower. Is Clay here yet? I'm about to drink. Good morning from Vancouver Island. Hey, guys. Nice to meet you. No Clay? No. We got Bev? Still no Clay? Good morning, Bev. Good morning, Catherine, as well. Nice to see you all. Did you guys have a good weekend? I got some relaxation in. Sunday was far more busy than I like to have because I really want to keep that for faith and family. But there certainly was a couple things I had to get done, get ready. You saw the 2-week announcement on who's going to be there. And yeah, Donald is impressed. Donald wants to talk about who the guests are going to be on Yola Yacht Club coming up. So yeah, we'll go over that. And of course, we got Donald for the full day. This is his Monday. Just so you know, a couple weeks ago, Donald and I were chatting. I'm like, look, dude, you take Monday. You get the guest. You bring the subject. You are part of the team. So Mondays, you can expect to see a lot from Donald, see what he's working on. And of course, Detective Helen Grus was all last week. So we're going to hear all about that. And I hear that Friday was just as juicy as the other days. So I hope you enjoy that update. And a small update over the weekend, we got to hear from Chris Carbert. So he made some public announcement asking for unity. We're with you there, Chris. Happy to do that. Very, very good weekend. We chatted with so many people. But I'm looking forward to this week. And then don't forget, I just got a new poster. Let me just make this nice and big for you. But we're going to be checking out the Pat King fundraiser. So August 26th, 2023, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to have music there. Oh, this is an old poster. Oh, sorry. I was trying to give you the original, the new one. Let me get the new one out. There it is. There we go. There's bouncy castles and be food. We've got live entertainment from Ruth Perv Smith, the Lindsay Butler. Ooh, I'm looking forward to that one. Lindsay's awesome. RC the rapper. There's a dunk tank you can dunk Pat King in. It'll be bouncy castles. You're gonna have speakers, including Pat King, Red Dog, McDavid, Granny Margaret McKay, James Sowery, Terrence Roland Dow, myself, and somebody named and more. I'm looking forward to meeting and more. It's probably a pretty cool person. So make sure you can come to that. It's going to be this weekend here in Leduc. It's going to be a good time. The posters are on my Twitter. You can find it on my Facebook as well. Be there or be square. It should be a good time. And there's a table there to support the Coutts men. You can pick up these. You'll be able to get some of those there. So if you want one of those, go to Leduc August 26th. Get there early. They're going to go quick. You'll make a donation and you can pick one up. So make sure you come and check that out, okay? It should be a really, really good time. I'm really looking forward to seeing Lindsay perform. I haven't seen her live, but she did some music down at the Coutts when it was going on. So really, really looking forward to Lindsay Butler as well. Oh, well, there we go. We're all set up for the week. We know what we're going to do on the weekend. I'm going to have some hot dogs, and I'm going to dunk Pat. I told him I'm going to make sure I get him dunked. He laughed. He put up the gauntlet and said, good luck with that. So, yeah, Pat, you're going to get wet. I assure you, you're going to get wet. I'm going to get you. And if I don't get him, one of you can get him. But make sure you show up and be there. I also believe Betty Carbett will be there as well. She talked about making the drive up there. And she's a big fan of Pat. So, and Pat's a big fan of hers. So, 2 number 1 fans get to meet. Let's see what happens. Fireworks, explosions, a new talk show. I don't know. Pat and Betty, AM. That'd be fun. I'd watch that. But on that note, let's go ahead and bring Donald in and let's get her started because I'm dying to hear the rest of what happened to Detective Helen Grus. Good
Good
morning.
morning. You know, I always open up by saying, Good morning, Canada. Well, no. Good morning, Canada, United States, Japan, South Africa, Israel, Ireland, and England. Why? Because I'm booked weeks in advance, one gig 2 months from now, on talk shows and shows just like this one, big shows,
Mhm.
some of whom have had big names on there. And this has just taken off, this Helen Grus situation, because people realize how important it is. There are a number of issues that are at the core of this thing, all about police officers and their ability to investigate anything they want to, about independence from political influence, and of course about the jabs, because the Pfizer documents were tendered as an exhibit. Wow.
Wow, that's great.
Incredible. So
Yeah.
we're getting some attention from the mainstream media and from alternative media too, or independent media, large and small. But there was a couple of things happened last week that you just have to look at it and say, yeah, we see what happened. First of all, the CBC showed up on Wednesday. They showed up for a day, and they wrote nothing.
Oh,
And that was they're just covering their butt because, of course, the CBC, and their reporter, Shamini Yogaratnam, were responsible for releasing into the wild illegal information that was given to them by rogue police officers, corrupt rogue Ottawa police officers, that resulted in eventually in the charges against Detective Grus,
hmm
but also in exposing all of the parents to whatever revisiting of their memories in public. Though, I mean, it's one thing for a police officer to call you and say, "Hello, I'm sorry to hear. I wanted to ask you something. Thank you very much." And by all accounts, the one phone call that Detective Grus made to one of the parents, a father, was cordial and appreciated,
of course.
because it was an officer doing her job. And there's been so many lies in the press, out and out lies. And there's also been hack jobs, and there has been deliberate misrepresentation of information. Well, we'll start with CBC, and then we'll move on to the Ottawa Citizen. Well, the Ottawa Citizen breezed in there with a couple of people, one a professional reporter, a professional photographer from the Hill, and the other a journalist by the name of Joanne Lossius. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they produced an article. Now, the fact that they produced an article is good. The fact that
hmm
they were there and covered it is good. The fact that the article mentions, just without context here, that it mentions the Pfizer documents, Helen Grus, wiretapping, some of the shenanigans that went on, that's great. The fact that it shows in front of the police station, the chap who does the website, theylied.ca. And if you go there, theylied.ca, it is a cornucopia
Cornucopia, I
of
love that word.
everything from the National Citizens Inquiry to various information about the jabs and their toxicity. And it's a really good website. The fact that the Ottawa Citizen, listed that and have a photo of him holding it up in front of the police station is incredible. Now, they may have meant to give this whole thing a tinfoil hat. You can just see what they're trying to do, but it doesn't matter. It's there, and they are there, and they were forced to come and cover this, and that's great. And but I'm just going to talk about two journalists that covered. There were many, but I'm going to talk about two journalists to contrast them, and then I want to talk about your guest list this week.
Sure.
So, so we have this article from the Ottawa Citizen. Now, we all know, if you've been listening or to my show or reading my works, that the Ottawa Police wiretapped Detective Grus and her family under a Section 188 warrant, not 186. What's that mean? I can see heads spinning and eyes rolling right now. It's a big difference, so pay attention. It means something. Under the normal route, and I did this for years, when you go to wiretap a criminal, you have to put together a package. You have to swear to it, real evidence. You include affidavit evidence from other officers, perhaps photographs, some previous records, and whatever you've got. Maybe some surveillance photographs of two people meeting in a donut shop or something, talking, and you need to know what they say. So, and it must be a major crime. That takes sometimes weeks or even months to put together. But if there's a hostage situation, if there's an abduction, if there's a murder about to happen, if there's a bomb about to be planted in some railroad track, then you go to the judge as a police officer and you say, look, it's emergency. It's an urgent emergency. It's happening right now. Give me the warrant. Here's the list of names. Give me the temporary warrant under 188. I will return in 36 hours with all the affidavits and evidence that I should have right now, and then I'll get it to you.
Right.
That's what they did to Detective Helen Grus and her family, and they never came back with the evidence because they didn't have it. Yeah. This was just a politically driven violation of human rights, just a fishing expedition, except it's not just fishing, because under the law, the person who is the target must eventually be notified on an official form. It's all you must do it. So they knew when they did this to her that they were going to send a form telling Detective Grus that she and by inclusion her family were wiretapped. Their most intimate secrets and family secrets and the dinners and gosh knows what, because they can just turn on your mobile phone anywhere as it's lying in the dining room or beside your bed or while you're watching TV. They can do that. And they do. And they did that to intimidate her and punish her and teach her a really darn good lesson to just toe the line, get the jabs, and keep your mouth shut. And that's exactly what they did. Now let's go to the Ottawa Citizen and see what they did with that.
Okay.
This is a hit piece. It's an absolute. Oh, I guess I should
show your screen.
That. No, I won't. I won't do that, but I will throw it in.
Okay. While you're doing that, let me do a quick announcement.
Yes, sure.
Happy anniversary, Padge. So it's our anniversary today. 18 years together, 15 years married. Wow. Happy anniversary, Padge. So let's see if we got a couple more in us. Get to the big 2-0. 18 years together. 18 years ago, I met that woman. Dancing in a club, and she needed some water. So I bought her a bottle of water. And then she gave me 2 children. So this is kind of how that works. Happy anniversary, Padge. Sorry about that, Donald. We can go back to
congratulations. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So going back to the Ottawa Citizen, this article spends an inordinate amount of time on the wiretap in a context that is designed. It is absolutely designed to denigrate her, to slander her, to defame her. It is designed to make it appear that there is an outstanding, on-the-go criminal investigation about Detective Grus. It's done deliberately. It is a hit piece. Despite all the other things that they put in, it is a hit piece. And
so look at this headline. Okay, so hearing to continue for Ottawa police officer accused of looking for vaccine links. What's the accusation here? What's the problem with that? Why would anybody want to have a problem with looking for any links? Plus, that's not really what happened. Like, she was looking into the deaths, and it linked to potentially right? So they're framing this as if she was on a witch hunt for vaccine injury type of things. And that's really not the case. Is this what you're talking
Well,
about, where they're slandering her, or they're trying to really position it or frame it?
well, what that positions her, and the whole thing is, it's a tinfoil hat. Of course, the vaccines are safe and effective, aren't they? Aren't they?
Right, right.
Right. So that's their perspective coming from it. But if we get into the word by word by word, which I'm not about to do right now,
Mm-hmm.
but an inordinate amount of time is spent on the wiretaps, but in a context that once again makes it appear that there is an ongoing criminal investigation against Detective Grus. She must have done something just terrible. That's a lie. It is
Absolutely.
presented as a lie. And if you read the whole thing, it is done deliberately. This is
Yeah.
deliberate defamation of Detective Grus. Absolutely.
Sorry,
So
Bruce.
let's contrast that. I mean, let's contrast that. Should have already done it. Sorry, buddy. It's
all good.
Monday. I need more coffee.
It's good. It's good. You're off for a week. You're on vacation. I keep telling everybody you're on vacation.
Vacation. Holy smokes. Yeah, right. So anyway,
Yeah.
this is
I'll
the
get this one up.
True North article by Jason Unruh. And I'm going to tell you about Jason Unruh before I tell you about this article. Now, Jason was there all week, and it was my pleasure to meet him. It was a privilege to meet with him and learn from him. He is a legendary journalist. He has worked for CBC, so he's been in the belly of the beast.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked in Canada's North as a court reporter up in the Northwest Territories. He covered Indigenous versus pipeline and all of that. He's been doing it for, I think, 2 decades now. And this is a man who is capable of doing a deep investigative dive on anything. I would have been proud to have him on my squad. Absolutely. He could have been a wonderful detective. So he also has done some really excellent deep dive work, which I mentioned in my tweet, about the COVID and the doctors who stood up to it. And this, if you go to the article, it is an incredible deep dive. Yeah, I'm talking about his work. And let me get you the name of the article. It's "What Would Hippocrates Do? Ontario doctors who dissented from COVID-19 doctrines fight for their professional lives." And it's a major article, typical of what he does. So
people should read this one. We're gonna put this in the chat.
Yes, I just want to say this is what journalism is supposed to be all about. And it was just a pleasure. There she is.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's kicking butt for the freedom movement. She's awesome.
I think she is. I can tell you what a terrier. 2 bull terriers, Bathsheba Vandenberg and Blair Ector. What lawyers. What a team. And later on, we'll go into just what happened and the unbelievable events of Friday. But first of all, I just want to look at this. I just want to consider and mention this True North article. It is what journalism should be. And it's a balanced piece. It truly is. And this is a great introduction to the entire week. He was there every day. He didn't just drop in for a quick hit like Ottawa Citizen did. This is a really good article, and everybody should read it. I'm going to grab, I have permission from him and True North. I'm going to grab a little bit of it and throw it on my website and have a link there. So there we go. So that's my introduction, my 20-minute introduction here. That's his other one. Yes. Scroll down so people can see how long that article is.
Oh, it's
I mean,
long.
if
You can
you
see
don't,
the bar at the top here. It's long.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
you can see the bar.
absolutely. Look at it. Look at it. This is a major tour de force, and you can fact check it all you want. I guarantee it'll be 100%.
Wonderful
Uh,
work.
oh, it's like a book, isn't it? Really?
Well, you get to
Absolutely.
CBC and they do like 2 paragraphs, tiny lines, and they make all these allegations with no sources. And then you read actual in-depth coverage or in-depth analysis, and it's going to be long because there's a lot of information to talk about. The tide's turning here, though, Donald, don't you think? When it comes to media, there is a tide
Oh,
turning.
they're being forced to cover this because if it doesn't turn out the way they want, and make no mistake, they are servants of big pharma, the major
Mm.
media, and they want her done, and they tried to do her. The Public Health Agency of Canada started to influence this investigation in March of 2022, making direct contact with the Ottawa police. Come on, you know. We see what's happening. The same agency responsible for mandating the vaccines, the same agency responsible for proving or not the vaccines. So they're involved in the trial and the investigation of a detective constable from Ottawa over an internal charge. Oh yeah, we see what's happening. I caught that. I uncovered that because during one of the televised or the internet broadcast hearings, one of the doctors, one of the people involved in this, I saw them using their Public Health Agency of Canada account during working hours to monitor the Detective Grus case. Well, there you go. All right, that's the introduction. I was just stunned to see your guest list for the next 2 weeks. And I also
Oh,
know
yeah?
about some that are coming after that. Apparently, people are really liking your show. I'm talking about your afternoon show here, Jason.
Yeah,
Please
thank
tell
you.
us about the guests. How did
Yeah.
it all happen?
Well, just one at a time. You ask. What I really use a lot of is when I ask people, "Who do you want to hear from?" and then they let me know. When I do my best to try and get them. I certainly have been getting a lot more yeses over the last couple months than I ever thought I would, no doubt. And some of them are very difficult to get because they're very busy people. So you got to be flexible and work with them. But yeah, today I have Nadine Ness, who's a former police officer who's really fighting hard against the indoctrination of our children, the sexualization and especially the normalization of pedophilia. She's quite the advocate on that. She's got a 20-minute video she released just last week or so. Stunning. Like why we are not all up in arms on this one right now, I don't know. But we'll be working on that one tonight, getting that message out. So Nadine is kicking some buttons in Saskatchewan. So we'll have her on. Tuesday, we have James Bauer from Canada Unity. So one of the original convoy organizers, leaders, whatever you want to call them. There's a whole bunch of people that call themselves the first, but he's certainly one of the first. We can say that. This is going to be a long conversation. I spoke to him on the phone, and he says, I got like 5 hours. I said, okay, well, let's start with the first half then, because he's got lots to say. So we'll be hearing from him tomorrow. Thursday, I've got Dan Hartman, so the father of Sean Hartman, the young man who passed away. It's now been shown, and there's a lot of evidence now, and it's really, really been shown that this was that stuff related. Keep in mind, we are on YouTube again, so it's related to that stuff. And it looks like more and more information is coming out. It is making it more concrete. So he's demanding answers, and he was very difficult to get because he's a very busy man. So Dan will be here for a couple hours to talk about his son, the journey that they're on, and how they're trying to get accountability. And I think he's been one of the biggest advocates for finding out what happened because his son was young, healthy, and had no reason to be gone. So we'll be talking about Sean quite a bit there. On Friday, we have our Coutts witness, Marco van Hosenbos. I'm determined to get his last name pronounced correctly, but Marco, the Marco. Now, he was on the morning show to talk about the Coutts stuff, but what we're doing for the afternoon show, it's always been this, is it's an interview of the people. And because he was a POEC witness, Public Order Emergency Commission, he was a witness there. That's why he's on my list. So I'll be speaking to him about who he is, the POEC. Certainly we'll be talking about some of the Coutts stuff, but not the way we did on the morning show that we did like 3 hours with him. We'll go over some of it, but we'll be mostly about him and his journey. Next week on Monday, we have a freedom musician, Desi Ranks. So he's from Jamaica. He does some great music, and a lot of people love him. When I had him booked originally on I think it was on the 18th, I had to move him. Friday was a tough day around here. We had to get a lot of things done around here. So we moved him to the 28th. The 29th is a pretty special guest. I call this one Abuse Charter because it's Honorable Brian Peckford. So the last living signator to the charter itself. And he picked a topic, and he was really clear that he wanted to talk about the abuse of the charter and Bill of Rights. So we'll be going into that deep. We have an hour with him. And you'd love this one, Donald, because when I first got connected to him finally, he offered me 30 minutes on Zoom. Like, oh, I normally do 2 hours on StreamYard. So some negotiations happened with the former signator of the charter. I got him up to an hour on StreamYard. So it's all confirmed. I didn't get 2 hours, but he gave me an extra half an hour. So we'll take it. So there's some negotiations there. And then on Thursday, I have a vaccine witness, Dr. Jessica Rose. So she was at the NCI. She did some testimony. Amazing.
Big name.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing. Yeah, she's on Viva Fry recently a couple times. She's doing the circuit, and she's an amazing woman. So you'll stick around for that one on Thursday, the 31st. And then Friday, September 1, I have an injured paramedic, Chet Krisham. You know him from the show. He's been on a few times, but he started to tell me his issues and what he went through. And this is 100% what we're talking about that week is how vaccines affected your work, your life, your career, your income, everything. And he's got quite the story as well because he got injured as a paramedic trying to do the right thing. So we'll be hearing from Chet. So those are the next 8 guests that we have coming up over the next 2 weeks.
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And I know you have a few names that you were sort of bouncing around.
Yeah.
You probably can't tell them because they're not solid yet, but the names just keep coming. And that's wonderful. Yeah. How this show has grown in the favor of Canadians and others around the world in really a few months. I know you've been at it since last year. And then of course, the commission, Public Order Commission, everything there. And you had me on a couple of times to talk about the train wreck of Chief Slowly's evidence and such.
That's right. Peter Slowly. My gosh, 2 days of him.
Oh, I know. And his name is front and center in the Grus trial too.
Yep.
Because of course, and here we go. You'll never hear this in the mainstream media. She was doing a report for him about what she had found, and she was researching it, and that was a big part of what she was doing. And all of that information was printed by the defense team and entered as an exhibit at the trial last week. And it's a stack. I don't know if I had to guess, I'd say 1,500, 2,000 pages. I don't know. I mean, it was a big stack of stuff. And in there are the Pfizer documents. There's documents from the Public Health Agency of Canada. Not sure which ones or what they reveal. And all the research that Detective Grus was doing. She gave that to the professional standards investigator, Sergeant Arbuthnot. And you know what he did with that information that had truly actionable information about, we can start with criminal negligence causing bodily harm. We'll start there and move on. Do you know what he did with that? Nothing. Nada. Nothing. And as I said on one of my stand-ups, were I his supervisor, still with a badge and authority, I'd be thinking of neglect of duty
Mhm.
under the Police Services Act for that man and a whole bunch of others who are involved in standing in the way of this brilliant detective, this dutiful detective and diligent detective who was investigating a crime for all of us Canadians. And these people obstructed that police officer. And as you know, because you're a legal guy, Jason, it's called obstructing police under the Criminal Code of Canada. And that's what we really have here when we boil things down. And that's why everybody's fighting so hard. They're just fighting so hard on the prosecution. They desperately need a conviction. Desperately, they need a
Mhm.
conviction. So there were amazing things happening all last week. There really were.
I got a quick question about
Yes,
police procedure. I'm
sure.
sure it's not normal, but how does it that sergeant or staff sergeant or whatever he was, how can he say to anybody in the police force, you cannot investigate subject and then insert subject there? Um, how is that a thing? Like, I can imagine that could be completely abused. Do not investigate the mayor's office. Do not investigate this business that I'm associated with. Do not investigate COVID. How is that a thing? And how is that itself not brought up immediately as improper direction, improper guidance? And I believe there's some penalties if you don't listen to the chief or the sergeant or whoever it was that made those kind of commands. How is that a thing?
Well, look, law enforcement is a balance, and it really is a balance. But there are fundamentals there. Now, the way we've set up law enforcement in the West, in Canada, and the United States, and Great Britain, with the advent of professional policing by Sir Robert Peel, and when police officers were called peelers, believe it or not, peelers,
Hmm.
and we have set it up in its ideal situation that the police act independently and that political agendas and politicians and corporations can't tell them what to do. And that's in the ideal way. Now, on the other hand, we can't have a bunch of police officers just running around, not doing or doing exactly what they want to do. Um, I was a motorcycle cop. I
Hmm.
was assigned to ride for the day in Division 21 or 22 or 23. Well, that was my beat. And I had better have a good reason for the sergeant if I'm found outside of that beat. That's
Sure.
where I'm assigned, right? Now, I had people come to me, even very early on as a young rookie motorcycle cop, saying, look, you see that bar there? You've grabbed a couple of drunks out of that bar, um, driving while drunk, and you followed them. That's what we used to do. We'd wait for somebody who's at a bar at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and the car's been there for 4 hours, and then they walk out and stagger to their car, and well, we get them before they hurt somebody, and that's what we do. We'd sit on
Right.
bars. So somebody came to me and said, "There's something happening in the bar. Stay away from it, please." Now, what that meant was there was a project, and the fact that the police were looking at the bar and had arrested a couple of patrons was making the patrons go someplace else, and it was interfering. It really was interfering with the legitimate drug project. So I went somewhere else as a courtesy, right? I did that. At the same time, we had a situation years later down in Toronto Harbor where all of those tour boats were serving liquor without a license. Why? Because there was no provision under the Ontario statutes to license a tour boat for liquor. So they were all unlicensed. They were doing the same thing that we used to do raids on bars for, operating without a license. So we started to raid them. Well, first we went and talked to them, and then we laid some charges. And we had none other than the politicians come to us and say, look, leave them alone. We wouldn't, because there's something called the rule of law. And we basically told that politician in 52 plainclothes sitting right in the office, if he said another word, we'd arrest him for obstruction of
Mhm.
police. So, but you have to be, when you make a stand like that, you have to be right. Helen Grus is right. All the others are wrong. They're in the
Yep.
they're in the wrong. And the police force, the police organization, Ottawa Police, Public Health Agency of Canada, probably the city and provincial and federal governments are all desperate to see her convicted. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we had an incredible thing happen in court on Friday afternoon. I'm going to set the stage.
Please
There
do.
used to be another prosecutor on this case. We saw her during the broadcast proceedings last fall. And by the way, they're not broadcasting these proceedings. I asked, journalists asked, newspapers asked for the Ottawa Police to broadcast on the internet these proceedings, and they aren't. Further, they withheld and are still withholding various documents that should be public knowledge. And as you know, famed detective, NYPD detective, New York Police Department, Frank Serpico, is following this case. And he made a statement that this is a cover-up and it doesn't matter to them how many infants are injured or dead. That's a powerful statement. He's also a Medal of Honor recipient, not for his anti-corruption work, which people think, but no, someone shot at him and he had a shootout. So we had this prosecutor on, and then she was replaced. I don't know why. The Ottawa Police have a number of lawyers on their staff who handle these prosecutions and do other things too. I am sure that the legal department of the Ottawa Police were intimately involved in the wiretap of Helen Grus. Absolutely, absolutely. It would have had to have been approved. Absolutely. So the same people who are investigating her, who wiretapped her, are prosecuting her. Oh, and the judge.
Lovely.
The judge, he's a former, now retired Ottawa Police Superintendent.
Is he referred to as a judge in this?
No,
Or
he's called the
commissioner
trials He's called the trials officer.
trials
But I
officer?
call
Okay.
him the judge because,
Right.
well, it's simple, and then people understand his role. People don't, in the public, they don't really a trials officer. What's that? It's the judge. It's a tribunal. It's an internal thing, but it is an internal thing. Everybody there stacked against Detective Grus are members of the club, and that includes the witnesses too. And
Can she appeal this in Ontario court after appeals court?
there are
It's administrative.
Yes, there are appeal processes, and as a matter of fact, on Friday, this will just blow you away. The judge made a ruling that the prosecution had to. That the defense. The judge made a ruling that the defense had to provide the court and the prosecution with the questions that they were going to ask on cross-examination of the witnesses in advance.
Whoa.
I mean,
So it's a will say, but whoa. So actually,
okay,
that's more than a will say. You're asking for your actual questions.
yeah, actual questions and strategy and everything like that. And
Is it implied that you can't add more questions later? Is it implied that they have to be pre-approved? What's the
well,
why do you
first
think
of
they're
all,
applying here?
it's illegal. We don't do
Yeah.
this in our adversarial common law system. You just don't do this. This is something that might have happened in North Korea or under the Soviets. The show trials. The defense is not obliged to provide their defense strategy and their questions in advance to each witness. And when I tell you why that was, you'll really have your eyes open. But just that, and the two defense lawyers, Vandenberg and Hector, of course, they're on their feet. And like one of them said, well, if that's the way it is, we're asking for a stay right now, and we'll be in court on Monday morning, divisional court.
Right. Take it to a different place. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you never saw such fast backpedaling in all your life. Look, The trials officer, the judge, is a retired superintendent, never had any legal training. And he might be a fine guy if a police officer has been caught asleep behind a gas station and wants to plead guilty, or maybe has a drinking problem and they're going to slap his hand a little bit. He'll plead guilty. They'll send him away for the cure and get back on. I'm sure the judge is just fine for that. But in this complex case of international importance, where everything's at stake and the Public Health Agency of Canada are monitoring it and Big Pharma is monitoring it and the whole works, he has been assigned something. He's like a general practitioner who has been assigned to do brain surgery. It
Right.
just doesn't work out. Okay, nothing against the man. I understand that he was a fine police officer, exemplary record, and as a street cop, he showed some really good judgment, had some good cases. Nothing against this man, but we're talking a systemic fault here. Okay.
So really what was the result of him asking that? Did Bathsheba push back hard enough?
He backpedaled. Right. Of course he backpedaled.
Good.
And basically ended up saying, well, please be nice to each other, because that brings us to the start of this on Monday. Rancorous, fist fights, that situation where the prosecutor stood up and cried that she thought that she was going to be physically assaulted. You've got to see.
And that was a picture of the defense that we saw, right? He was walking out, that guy there.
That, I think, if you mean
the gentleman with the suitcase and the suit, and he was walking up, Bathsheba behind him. That was the picture we just saw.
Right, that's Blair Ector. That's
him. So that's a very dangerous, scary guy. He looks like a really nice guy.
He is. He's a real gentleman. He did tell me to shut up one time because we were whispering.
He should have been.
Rebel News and I were behind. I know it's our fault. It's our fault. He didn't say shut up, but
there's a Maverick and a Rebel back there. Got to shut him up.
Yeah, he made no doubt. And look, we were in the wrong. We shouldn't have been whispering. We just didn't realize the thing had started. But he left no doubt. This is his turf. Same with Miss Vandenberg. It's her turf, and you can tell they are just so at home. This is what they do, and they are at their prime. So anyway, let's get back. The whole week has been absolutely incredible. I couldn't understand why the prosecution was doing what she was doing. And then I found out. You see, every time, we only had 3 witnesses on the stand, and every time a witness got on, they were impeached, which means that their credibility was challenged, and by gosh, it was shot. To the point where at the end of the first day, talking about Sergeant Guy, the prosecutor, whose name has left me for a moment. I'll give Vanessa.
I'm sure it starts with Karen.
Well, no, don't do that. Anyway, this prosecutor stood up and at the end of the day said she wanted to call some other witnesses to rehabilitate her witness. That's how bad the body blows were by the defense. It was absolutely incredible. But
so in legal speak, so people understand what that means, a witness did so bad that she wants to bring another witness to try and clean it up.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. Her name is Vanessa Stewart, and she is not the top legal counsel for the Ottawa Police, but she is she's senior, and for some reason she was assigned to this case after the other prosecutor left. I don't know why the other prosecutor was replaced, but I've got a feeling now, because here's what happened. All week, this Vanessa Stewart prosecutor was standing up and objecting even before the defense counsel was able to get a question out. Defense counsel stood up one time, Mr. Ector, he had a paper in his hand. She stood and he went to open his mouth and she said, I objection. And he just looked at her like, these are my notes. Like, you don't know what I'm going to say. What's the matter with you? And it was like that all week. Oh, what's the matter with you? In 1 2-hour period on Friday of the last witness, 3 questions were given and answered. That's all, 3. Because the rest of the 2 hours was taken up with the prosecutor on her feet objecting and the defense having to argue. And I really do think, and once again, I want to say that the trials officer, good man, okay, good police officer, but systemically he's been put in a place where the court was out of control. What happened, what the prosecutor did, and I'm laying it all on the prosecutor, I really am. And if you could have seen the whole thing, and I have all the tape, all the recordings, and I'm going to do a deep dive in the next month over individual issues because it's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the prosecutor, and why was she doing this? Well, we found out on the final day, because right in the middle of the afternoon, it was revealed to a shocked, packed gallery that the witness and the prosecutor are sister-in-laws.
Oh, wow. There's a conflict.
Holy
there.
smokes. This is an unrevealed
She brought in family.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah. So
And
what's the
then
merit for this witness? Like, why are they there? Are they part of the OPS? Just someone to clean up?
They are integral to the prosecution case against Detective Grus, and the defense counsel was ripping them to shreds. They had made statements up and written things that were not true, and they were being this detective constable, whose last name is Stewart. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Is it her brother or something? Her brother's
It's her brother.
Wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The prosecutor is
she's not married
to the prosecutor is married to the witness's brother.
Prosecutor is married to the witness's brother. Oh, right. Okay, that's where Stewart comes from then. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she picked up the name. Got it.
Right. So there we go. Now, why is this important? People might not realize why. Well, first of all, the fact that you're prosecuting a case and one of the prosecution witnesses is related to you means it changes everything. You're worried about the credibility of that witness, so much so that you might act like she did all week, aggressively trying to defend her sister-in-law, because she knew what was coming. She knew her sister-in-law had lied. She probably did, okay? Probably did. At least she knew that her sister-in-law, that the defense was going to try and impeach her. So why was she there? Why was she there? Why would you not walk away from a situation like that where you have a conflict of interest? I went to a traffic accident one time. I was called there, and there's my cousin. I can't investigate that accident. I cannot.
Yeah, but you didn't get the memo, Donald. Trudeau had Rolu on, which is family. He did the inquiry. You forgot about this. Sorry, Donald, you didn't get the memo. Trudeau also had David Johnson on, which is a nice family friend. This is justice now. You didn't get that. I'm sorry, Donald, but you should get your wife and your family, and you get your cousins. They can come testify for you now.
Yes. Well, I thought.
This is justice in Canada now.
Because the defense stood up and revealed this, and I thought they'd done some investigation and they were revealing this and everything. No, the judge already knew. the judge had made a ruling that this was okay.
Okay, so what
What?
is she bringing to the matter? What is her material that she's bringing?
Do you mean the
So it sounds,
witness?
yeah, the witness. So the witness, is she a police officer?
The witness is a police officer who is a
Okay,
squad mate, was a squad mate with
way
Detective
too much
Grus.
conflict there. So she works for
Okay.
the police and a family friend.
Right. And she had been reporting on Detective Grus up the chain of command, whisper, whisper, but also in writing, about absolutely just uproariously false. For instance,
Got it.
she
Gotcha.
reported up the chain of command that Detective Grus had said that within the mRNA injections, there were tracking devices that would allow the government to know wherever you were. She actually said this, which is absurd, because if you read the email that Detective Grus sent to the chief in September of 2021, she was very professional. She accepted that COVID existed, but she said these vaccines are untested, and we don't like what we see about the physicians who are being silenced. And she also asked point blank if police officers who are forced to take this vaccine, I'm paraphrasing, are injured, will the police department accept liability? Will they look after our families?
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a very professional. But then we had this gossipy person creating fiction to get rid of Detective Grus.
It sounds
I
like the
didn't
Steele
know, but
dossier. You know the thing against Trump where they made up an entire document to
yes,
steal.
that's exactly what we had. And
Yeah,
the
it's a bit of
squad
a tactic of the left.
yes, the squad even pushed Detective Grus out of the office and made her work at another facility far away all alone, because she refused to say if she was vaxxed or not.
The shame office, just like the shame lunchroom in Edmonton.
Yes, exactly. So this officer, this Detective Stewart, was part of that. So what do we have here? What we have is that a prosecutor who had a direct conflict of interest, whose relative was at risk in this process, and they are at risk because now we've just seen how this Detective Stewart basically made stuff up to try and convict, or try and push away, or try and have Detective Grus charged. So we have this new prosecutor coming on board to protect her relative. That's the way it looks. And we have the court absolutely uh, making an order to allow this. This is nothing but a setup. And I don't say that's the way it appears. This is corrupt. This is an absolutely corrupt setup. Members of the club arranging everything. Why don't they just announce the verdict on Monday and not bother with everything else?
Yeah, so everybody can get to the next
Now,
step of appeal. Like, come on, let's move this along.
Now, I spoke to a friend of mine, and he is a King's Counsel. That sounds funny. It's always been Queen's Counsel all my life, but okay, we're getting used to it. He's a King's Counsel, and he's been following the Grus case because he's a friend of mine, associate. And he said, when that happened, and I told him what had happened, he said, full stop, absolute full stop. Everything must be revealed in order that the public can be confident of the process, of the people involved, and of whatever verdict they're going to reach. Because right now, all of that has been placed in jeopardy. So, as a result of speaking with this lawyer, a man of decades and decades of experience in very serious cases, some of which you would even know the names of the cases and the people he has represented. And he says, full stop, can't go one step further. And so I am today writing again to the trials officer, and I am asking for the documents that have been denied to me, including now this decision to allow this conflict of interest, which my friend says, and I believe, is absolutely fatal to this trial. He said if it were a criminal matter, you would be looking absolutely at a retrial or a dismissal right now, and that people who were involved would have to answer for doing what they have done and allowing this absolute conflict of interest, which brings the Ottawa Police Service into disrepute. It brings the credibility and the honor of the Ottawa Police Service into disrepute. It slaughters the legitimacy of everything that has happened. And we know how bad the investigation was. And we know how bad the laying of the charge was. But this is supposed to be the trial process, the judicial process, even though it's internal. And what happened has totally destroyed the credibility of this process and of the court and of the prosecutor. I'll wait until I see the judge, but how can a judge knowingly allow a serious conflict of interest like that? And now we know why the rancorous behavior of this prosecutor has been right up front for the entire 5 days. She was desperate to preserve the integrity of her sister-in-law. My friend, it's time that this farce ended. I don't know what the defense team is going to do, but if I'm standing here saying these words, you can betcha that the defense team have got a pot of coffee on and they are typing right now. Have to be.
Yep. I'm going to speculate a little bit, just a little bit here, on what could be going on, because I find this to be this grossly misconduct. Like, this is grossly wrong. Like, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. It's morally wrong, but it's legally wrong too. It has destroyed. It's reprehensible.
Right. I want to get to that. I want to speculate that could be on purpose. And just hear me out for a second. OPS has really dropped a whole bunch of balls. They've demonstrated during the convoy. They demonstrated during the Helen Grus. They've demonstrated in other matters how they're really dropping the ball. And to the point where the distrust in the OPS is really at an all-time low, I would assume. If you take a poll of people, they probably don't trust it much. Pause that for a second. Rouleau's recommendations are about to come out, 53 of them. So we've gotten information that Rouleau has 53 recommendations surrounding police, how police respond and how police act. Just hear me out here. During the entire POEC, as we were watching it, we kept getting the feeling that at some point, Rouleau's going to recommend a new federal centralized intelligence and policing and force, a new type. It's going to be something he recommends. Again, we're still speculating.
I think based on his report, it the KGB. They're going to call it the KGB, are they? Yeah, the King's best guard.
Something. Okay, so now what I'm starting to see here is the OPS was getting into fights with OPP and other stuff on who has jurisdiction and who should have been calling shots. We saw all of that in the POEC. Now we're seeing this real cluster thing happening to Helen Grus. I think this might be a little bit by design, so that people like you and I, who were following this Grus stuff, says, hey, look, we absolutely need an external review process for police. Yes, we're all for some sort of master centralized Canadian-wide police force investigation service, because now we're going to be asking for it. because, local police services like OPS are just messing things up. The board is horrible. They can't get things right. There's too much corruption. So this might be a scapegoat. This might be a patsy. OPS might be a patsy. They might be causing so much disputes, like it's in disarray. It's really bad that people will demand an external review board of some sort, whether it's provincial or federal. People will say, "Hey, look, they can't handle their own stuff. They got their own people. Too much conflict of interest. They got a sister-in-law involved. The judge isn't really a judge. He doesn't know what he's doing." So we might call for a new type of police review board. And I guarantee you, if you take a look at what Rouleau's recommendations are going to be coming up, there's going to be a national version one. So I think just putting it out there that they could be patsying the OPS, letting them scuttle their actual credibility, so that we all come in and rescue them with a new national review board that will handle issues like this better. And this is how it will be sold to us. What do you think? Do you think I got no tinfoil today, so maybe I should put some on. But do you think that they might be scuttling the OPS so that people demand more accountability? And then we accept and welcome their new ushered in national police review board or something. Because keep in mind, during the POEC, they said many times, the RCMP, CSIS, OPS, OPP, all of them said, we kind of need a central command so we can all know what we're doing. We don't really know. We're kind of trying to work together. And this, I think, is if your ducks are in a row, we're going to be headed exactly towards things like you and I demanding this, not just the main group, but even us will be saying, no, they can't handle stuff internally. Look at this kangaroo thing that they did here. We need something better than that. And then they're going to usher in this whole new National Police Review Board, which has jurisdiction over all local police forces, which is something that they said they were missing during the POEC, is a command structure for the local police forces. This worries the heck out of me because, yes, we're one step away from KGB if this is exactly the direction they're headed with this.
Okay, first of all, there are some happenings across Canada right now that are pushing back against that scenario that you just mentioned.
Yeah,
Alberta,
everybody should.
Alberta, Saskatchewan are pushing for their own provincial police organizations because they are tired of the federalities.
Sorry, I have to update you. Alberta said last week they're not anymore. It's off the table.
But she said that. She said that to get elected. She promised.
Yes,
Gosh,
but she also told
golly.
us, sorry, guys, you're staying with the RCMP for 20 more years. I think they renewed. Something's happening, Donald.
There you go. Look, then that's top-down stuff, but the people don't want the RCMP. The people have had it. In Surrey, same thing, kicked out the RCMP. They're putting in their own police force. This has to happen because we absolutely cannot continue with law enforcement being directed by political agendas and politicians.
Correct.
We cannot have that. I mean, that's a hill to die on, that one. Okay. They want to introduce their national KGB. I will not comply. That's disgusting. But there might be another thing happening in this trial, which is this. Well, first of all, I can't believe that the prosecutor is so stupid that she does not realize how bad this looks for her career, and that it's immoral, and that it undermines the credibility of the police organization and of her. I can't believe that she doesn't realize that. Same with the trials officer. I think they took a chance. They've got an agenda. Now, I've thought that they might somehow find a way to throw this out, not because of the agenda that you mentioned, which is then to be able to point and say the local police force is not capable. We must, appoint a national police force. No, I think it's because they don't want the witnesses, the expert witnesses that the defense is undoubtedly calling. There was a conversation about that, because that's going to bring to the fore the vaccine injuries and deaths, and also the fact that we have a policing organization that is in neglect of duty, right from that sergeant that received that information, that evidence, all the way up the chain. I keep saying, if I still had my badge and authority, you would have a desk set up in my squad room, and it would be dedicated to bringing to justice the people who caused all this misery and approved this poison, which they knew was going to cause injuries and deaths. They knew that. We know that from the Pfizer document. We know that from everywhere. And I'm sorry about YouTube, but hey, I'm practically giving up on YouTube myself. Can we not speak the truth, even when the Center for Disease Control has admitted that breastfeeding babies have been injured and killed because of this?
Yeah, I don't know if that's
poison?
a YouTube requirement or not, because that is common knowledge now, for sure.
Yes,
for sure.
yes. So there you go. So this happened. I don't know what's going to happen. I know if I were on the legal team, which I'm not, if I were the lawyer, if I were the lawyer, which I am not, the defense lawyer, I would be thinking right now of some motion. I don't know. I don't have enough legal knowledge to know, but surely this cannot continue. And if it does, it just brings the entire reputation of the Ottawa Police Service into disrepute, which amazingly is what Detective Grus is charged with.
Yeah. Well, the proper procedure for the defense will be to continue. If they really strongly believe they can't get a fair hearing, they can stay it, like Bathsheba said there. And that just means pause while we take it to another place to see if we can get standing there.
Sure.
And
you can tell by the questions. You can tell by the questions all week that the defense team are laying the grounds that they need for an appeal. I mean, and they even said it. They even said, "I want to put this on the record, sir. I want to put on the record that we have asked to do this, and you have prevented from that." Bathsheba Vandenberg stood up one time and said, "What you have just done is an appealable event." Like, just notify them. What you have just decided is appealable. I just want to put that on the record.
Right, you have to.
Yes, absolutely. Look, once again, the man's just out of his depth, but he's not out of his depth enough. He knows that this prosecutor should not be on the case. They have 4 or 5 lawyers working for them. Why did they not assign another prosecutor? Why not? Well, what it looks like to this Canadian is the whole thing's fixed and rigged. And as my lawyer friend says, stop right now. Can't go ahead. We have to restore the public's confidence. And I don't know how we're going to do it. I think that this is fatal, which is his opinion too.
Yeah.
So there we go. I'll be going into a deep dive in an article. I mean, a really deep dive this week. And when I do, I'll mention it and everybody can have a look at it.
Well, you're getting a lot of kudos. People are very happy with you. I even got a comment here for you. Oops, sorry, I tried to put it up there. This guy, Donald Best, is one of the highest caliber individuals I have ever witnessed. And I'm sure Rogue read my book, Bearing Witness, so he knows how to be a good witness. So he knows what he's saying here. Right, that Rogue Spear? Thank you very much for that comment. Yeah, people love your reporting, Donald. All last week, I've been getting nothing but messages like, this is the new face of Canada. This is trust and honesty. This is integrity. You keep talking about you that way. And your delivery is captivating and informative. So thank you very much for all
that. Well, I just try and speak to everybody like they're my next door neighbor, and we're just good Canadians wanting the best thing. And an interesting thing happened online. A former CBC high-up editor, I forget his name, he runs a Twitter account. Everybody knew who he was. I didn't. And he had this great long tweet saying about how wonderful CBC is. And we have a national radio service, so we don't need the internet during an emergency because the CBC is there and they'll tell us what to do. And I I responded, well, they're just propaganda and everything that they are. And then somebody said, well, hey, you don't know this guy. He's, how the feed goes. And I replied, which many people agree with, I have more faith in the credibility of an ordinary Canadian standing in their backyard reporting on an event than I do in the CBC. And we saw that with the forest fires that are raging out there, people
everywhere
standing
again.
in their backyards and other events and such. That is the face of your fellow Canadians doing the best they can to show you what's happening there and then. And if they give their opinion, well, that too. We don't need Big Brother sucking up billions of dollars into this so-called news organization, which has become just a propaganda arm of government, the same as all the others who are taking the ticket, taking the money. And you and I'm proud to say that I have 13 subscribers on Twitter right now, and I make $26 a month.
That's awesome. Good job for $2 a
Isn't that
subscriber.
something?
Keep it going.
Yeah. So
if you guys like his work, go subscribe and give him a couple bucks.
Well, I am going to be a little more formal about it. I'm going to move some of my things to Substack because I like doing this and I feel fulfilled, and I think I can do some good here, just like you're doing good. I mean, we're not doing this for the good of our health. We're doing it for the good of others. We're doing this because we believe that Canada needs a hand, and we're doing it because for our children and grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
No grandchildren for you yet, but I have a few.
No.
But
there may be something coming up soon, though. Not grandchild, but we may have something later.
Oh, okay.
We'll keep it at that. But
all right,
yeah, it was a good day yesterday over at the Levine household, and then today's the anniversary.
There you go. All I can tell you is that I have far more faith in Canadians, as we see on our show and all across Canada, once again, standing in their backyard, sitting on their front porch, wherever they're doing it, bringing their news and opinions to other Canadians and the world. Legacy media
is legacy.
Walking dead. They don't even know it.
No, and I don't think there's a repair left for them now. They've nailed too many nails in that coffin of theirs. I don't think people can go back to that. It's over.
Well, they're trying to take the internet away from us with these new bills in Ottawa. They're trying to do that, and in the United States and the European Union too. Well, we're not quite yet firing up our shortwave radios, but I got one.
Yeah, and you were kind of getting worried. You need wells, you need garden. It's kind of your recommendation for the next little bit is to make sure you can have a garden and your own well, because you're not too happy with where we're headed.
Yes, I think we're going to see some tough times coming, my friends. Prepare yourself as best you can. My big worry right now is I'm not on well water, and that's the way it is. I'm dependent upon the system for the water. I don't care about the electricity, but the water we can't do without. So I think there's some tough times coming economically and socially. And I think it's something that even of my generation, we've just never seen before. Sure, I saw 17% mortgage rates, but houses were 40 grand.
Right.
So, this is we're preparing for something. We don't know what's coming exactly. But everybody should start stocking up on the rice and beans, water filters, learn how to garden, truly.
Yeah, and we don't have any affiliate codes. We really mean that. You should go take a look at maybe a little bit of emergency food, something that can keep you guys if you need to, keep some water around, get a well if you can. I know that they're registering wells. They're requiring people to let us know about wells that are not registered. So that's a concern.
Why
do they care?
Why is that, Jason?
No, I heard rumors out of farmers because they dig their own wells all the time to have pastures and where they can provide water to their animals. So they have these wells all over the place, and now they're being asked to register them. Like, interesting. Why do you care that there's water coming out of the ground to the point where you want people? And I believe it's going to be by force. They're going to come start looking. And that's why I told somebody to put an outhouse over top of there so they don't bother. Because that's exactly what they're doing. They're starting to go around taking notes on who's got wells. Now, I just put my well in a couple of years ago, so it's already registered. There's a number on it. They know about it. It was part of the permit. But people who dug their own wells, grandfathered, legacy, yeah, they're asking where they are. It's a weird question, if you ask me.
It's all about control.
Yep. And I do know of some parcels around here that are for sale. There's one really nearby. If anybody's looking for 30 acres, there is one nearby. We got good well water at 180 feet.
Hey, what's that 30 acres going for? Do you know?
It's a quarter. It's $250,000.
$250,000.
Which isn't bad for 30 acres of good virgin land.
I mean, that's if you own a house in Toronto or Windsor or something, that could be chicken feed.
Oh, Vancouver, absolutely. If you're making a move,
buy the whole half of the province.
Sure, yeah. If you have property in Ontario or BC, it's a good way to get into good Alberta property. You can really downsize and pick up some property. But yeah, there's some. I would recommend Alberta.
30 acres, you can pretty well live on that. What about the water quality? I've got a friend who just outside of Edmonton.
Zero. When I say zero, because they do tests for 3 different things, they're all zeros.
Right.
And I know this because it's my neighbor. So my well is at 180, perfect water. We don't even treat it. It's that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a friend outside of Edmonton, and they tried to drill a well, and it's nothing but oil. I mean, there's nothing there.
Poor guy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. No, we're actually elevated here, so we're kind of up compared to the land around us. And yeah, we have very nice water here.
All right.
Just putting.
Well, I took note of that. Wifey's over here making notes too.
Hey, there's a friendly neighbor. There's a friendly neighbor. I know the neighbor.
That's it.
But I'll let you run there, Don. I think there was one thing that you were going to mention just briefly, that you're going to get into some investigating. You're going to look into some subject matter that you haven't looked into yet. Maybe we could just leave it briefly, as you can start looking into it now.
You know what? It's a little late to get started in that. I've got a number of things that I've been asked to look at, people have seen, and they've sent me, and wow, there's just so much work. So many people have been chewed up and spit out by our so-called justice system. And I'm talking real corruption here, not just, I had a case and I lost. And no, I'm talking real corruption here. I know it's always been there, but I really am saddened by the number of people who over the past few years have come to me with reports of corruption in the justice system. I've looked into it, and it's absolutely real.
Yeah.
But you need a complete legal team, and if you can get one, and nobody works for pro bono because you've got to buy bacon and eggs.
You got it.
That's it.
Yeah, there's a bunch as well. So my call to everybody is keep reaching out. But the focus, at least for me specifically, and I know Donald has a slightly different focus, which is great because we don't need to overlap. My focus is the POEC witnesses, the NCI witnesses, and political prisoners. Political prisoners for the freedom movement is really where I'm trying to put the envelope around, because frankly, there's so much out there that when you're an independent journalist in the size that we are, we really need to focus on certain issues so that we can do our best on that and not get diluted and too pulled apart on everything. So to everybody reaching out, please keep going. If it's corruption related, police related, that kind of stuff, I'll pass it to Don and he can take a view of that. If it's POEC, NCI, political prisoners that need to tell their story, reach out to Don or I, and we'll do our best to get them on as well. And speaking of, I believe we have David Parker tomorrow. So he came up last week, I think it was last week. He came up. His name came up during the Stand for the People. So Rebecca, I think Stewart. I actually want to say Stewart or Shepherd. It might be Shepherd, and Jane Sharp. They were on and mentioned David Parker. So he's going to be on tomorrow as long as his baby doesn't arrive tomorrow. So that's the only caveat. If his baby decides to arrive tomorrow, he will not be arriving tomorrow. But right now he is penciled in. As long as that baby holds on for another day or two, we'll be talking to David Parker. And if not tomorrow, he'll be back shortly after, because he does want to come on and have his story as well. So that should be interesting.
Looking forward to the next 2 weeks and the next 2 months.
Yeah, it's coming, dude. This is our fourth month.
I'm just blown away by the guests that are coming on your show now. And I know some of them are reaching out to you. You're not reaching out to them. That's great.
Yeah, there's quite a few now. And we're actually at the point where we're saying, like, your story isn't quite political prisoner Canada, because I'm getting a lot of people from outside of Canada that want to talk to now.
You know what? Can I take just 5 minutes to talk about something?
Please do.
Another issue? Okay. Look, I was away for a week, and I really enjoyed myself. I was getting a little bit punch drunk at the end of the. My goodness, living in the hotel room and doing the stand-up.
You're on vacation. I'm telling everybody, you're on vacation.
Oh, vacation! My goodness,
it's as close as you're going to get to one right now.
Yeah. So anyway, I did see a bit of chaos in the chat groups, in some of the things on Twitter, and I saw some allegations going back and forth. They're just nasty words, and some of them were even directed at me. I mean, aren't I a nice guy? You know,
I think so.
And so I think that some things have just gotten out of hand, and I've ignored them. I really have. I have my focus has been the Grus trial, because it was there, and the work up to it, and I was there. And even now, I'm going to really work hard to do deep dives into all of the issues that were raised last week, starting with the fact that the credibility of the entire process and the police force and the court has just went off the edge of a cliff on Friday. So you'll see that pretty soon. But I come back to see all this other chaos going on, and it doesn't matter what it is. The people who are involved know. Look, we have to keep first of all, I'm going to bring my investigative skills as much as I can. I haven't paid attention to any of this, and I'm going to do the best that I can using my investigative skills to try and understand what has happened here. And it's about the Coutts 4. But I want people to know that we have to keep our focus upon these 4 men who are in jail. They are political prisoners. Chris Carbera, if I'm correct, has a bail hearing coming up in October. It is so important, because if Chris makes bail, and he should make bail,
he believes he will.
If he makes bail, it will cause the public and the courts to really examine why the other 3 are being kept. And it may result in everybody getting bail. I don't say that lightly. It should result in everybody getting bail, because inside, you can't run your own defense. You can't know what's happening. You're ineffective. You're oppressed. Maybe you're depressed. It's a tough stay. I only did 63 days in solitary confinement. These men have done way over 500. How many days? 550 now?
554.
Something like that. 554. My goodness. And we have to keep our focus on that, because once one of them gets out, I believe all of them will get out. And when they get out, then they can be effective in running their defense and in showing the world exactly what happened, what was done to these men when politics entered law enforcement, because that's exactly what we had here.
Yeah.
And that's going to come out, because we have to stop the politicians and political agendas influencing law enforcement and their investigations, or directing them. And I believe that's exactly what we had here. So let's get Chris out of prison. Let's focus on that. Let's bring a public attention to this bail hearing. And let's see if we can accomplish that, because once that happens, it just may be the breach in the dam that's needed. That's
Absolutely.
it.
And you
Meanwhile,
spoke to Betty yesterday about this too.
I
So
did. I did. I had
she
a
got
little
your
talk.
support.
Yes, I did. And what I'm going to do for each one of the men, I'd like to do a profile, really a deep dive. You
That's
know, what we
wonderful.
do here, talking and broadcasting, that's all very well, and it's all part of it, and people love that. But people keep going back to that article I wrote about the Coutts 4. I only wrote one, and it had international exposure, and people are still coming to it and referring to it because of my analysis of the evidence and the police investigation and how bad it was. I'm going to do that for each one of these 4 men, the best
Wonderful.
I can, to tell Canadians their true story, their true history, and something about what's happening to them now. And that's my focus. There's a lot of chaos going on. I understand that. Well, we'll deal with that. I'm going to look into it. But right now, our focus should be on getting Chris Carver bail,
Yes.
period.
Yes. Yes, and a small little caveat to that is both Chris Lysick and Chris Carbert both said yes to pursuing and investigating habeas corpus application. So they're both aware of it. Both of them told me why their lawyers hadn't done it yet. Chris Lysick explained that the lawyer thought the charges were too high, but that's not what habeas corpus is about. There's no limit on what type of charge. So he's cooperating. Chris Lysick's cooperating. Chris Carbert's cooperating with both their lawyers as well. So this isn't a rogue thing. Working with their lawyers, because in order to have a successful application, I need to collect certain information around the original bail hearings, the responses to them, possibly even transcripts from it. But we are currently, there's a group of us actively collecting the information for a habeas corpus application. Now, his bail hearing might come before that. Okay, lots of things. The opening of the envelope, by the way, is one more thing I learned yesterday that they're pushing for. So the lawyers are basically drawing straws to see who's going to be the one that nudges the judge about opening that envelope.
That
So they're
envelope,
trying to work
I
on
mean,
that.
I would look, I had the impression when all the talk was going on about the envelope, I mean, we've sort of forgotten about it, but didn't we have the impression or somebody say that it could be something that derails the entire prosecution?
Yep, Chris
Let's
reminded
get
me
that
yesterday.
envelope open.
Yeah,
Let's get that
he
envelope
reminded me
open.
yesterday because I kept saying, well, he's going to open it and he's going to make a decision and then maybe you guys will get bail from it. He's like, no, I believe if he reads it, it's going to be over. If the judge reads what's in that envelope, he believes that it will be over. So they are now talking, the lawyers are talking about who's going to be the one that takes that little bump to the judge and gives him a nudge to try and get that envelope looked at. So that's happening right now too. Habeas corpus is being developed and worked with the lawyers, 2 of them. Bail hearing for Chris in October. So we really have 3 things that are kind of coming together, and hopefully one of them is it works out and they're free until trial.
You know, that envelope. Now, we heard rumors, and once again, folks, this is just a rumor that we've heard and some analysis and such. But it could be because there was an unintentional disclosure by the Crown is how this happened.
Mm-hmm.
It could be that somebody fabricated evidence, a police officer. It could be.
I have
And
no
if that's,
idea, but my goodness, that could be one of the 4 lines, maybe.
oh, come on, Jason. It's so common. It is so common. I mean, we spoke about that. The fact that the little dollies they sent in, the good-looking RCMP undercover officers, they decided to not wear recorders. They could have worn earrings. They could have worn everything.
Right.
That's a decision that's a big red flag to me. It's all about scripting, which is falsely claiming somebody said something. And if that's what this envelope reads, that house of cards has to come down. There's no way that this can stand. Once we find one police officer fabricating evidence in a case, that should be the end. It really should.
Now, I got a question for you, Donald, whether or not you want to be a martyr with me or not. But if it comes out that the decision is to open the envelope and not act on it, or not open the envelope at all, keep it a secret. And somehow I'm able to get a copy of it and violate that publication ban and release it so that the public knows what actually happened. Would you stand by me on that?
Not a chance. No.
Well, you can keep the show going
Look.
then, and you can talk about me.
We'll come and visit you. No, look, there comes a time, and I've had it happen to me, when you have to stand there and stand for what's right, even if the weight of the system is just there against you. And when my time came, I did 63 days in prison.
Mhm.
I was eventually vindicated, but I could have given in. I did 63 days in prison. And so I can stand here and I can name all the lawyers and the police officer who took the bribe and the judge who was corrupt. I can name them all. They're all named on my website. And I can tell you each one of those people are absolutely, totally corrupt.
Right.
I've been vindicated. I can do it. But I had to do some time in prison for that. So I can tell you that if you received a copy of that somehow, if a pigeon dropped it on your farm or
Just
however
be clear,
that happened,
that pigeon has not come by now. If
that happened, I would look at it. I would bring my best investigative professionalism, and I hope that I would have the strength and the courage, the integrity to do what's right for my fellow Canadians.
right.
And there are people making that decision every day. It's a tough decision. I've been in a position to make that several times. I was ostracized in the police force because I arrested police officers and went to their homes, and they totally destroyed some of our squad member. They destroyed the car. We couldn't park anywhere near a police facility for years with our personal vehicles. So I know what it's all about. There's a price to be paid for being a whistleblower or just doing the right thing, standing up and saying no. So you put that envelope in front of me, I'm going to look, then I'll make my decision. If it is fabricated evidence and we can prove the police fabricated evidence, you won't hold me back.
Great. And I have the exact same opinion. If it's being pushed and suppressed and they're trying to hide that information and they will not take a look at it, or they decided it's not worth acting on, we'll let the public decide. And at that point, it has to go public. So
I think that would be the only thing to do. If in fact that's it. Look, it might not be. We're all speculation here. But for some reason, we don't trust the system, law enforcement, politicians, healthcare. Our faith in each one of these foundational systems, foundational to our society, has been absolutely shattered. I don't know if mine can be repaired. The last
I have
few
hope.
years.
I have hope.
Last few years. Look, I even had a little bit of hope after I did my prison time. But after these past 3 years and what I've seen, you're going to have to work really hard.
Well, here's where my hope's coming from recently.
Yeah.
Watching the public attack over the last couple of weeks, small, minor, little drop in the bucket type of problem.
Yes.
But I did see how the public responded to it. They wanted truth. They pushed for truth. They were expecting evidence, and when they didn't get it, they made some decisions. So I was really optimistic about the response from the public. It's not a catty, gossipy public anymore, which I think is great. They're more interested in looking for the truth, which is wonderful.
We can take
so I'm
bad
hold
news.
on to that.
Canadians can take bad news. Canadians can handle it. Canadians can handle the truth and analyze it themselves. And
Agreed.
And
I'm seeing more and more of
that.
that. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm seeing more and more of that.
Yeah.
You
we're
do
tired.
you do see the odd player who just jumps on for grandstanding or whatever. And that's just too bad, because that doesn't age well, especially when they actually get the truth. We're seeing this with some MPs around the Coutts stuff, where they're saying, no, they're guilty. I know about that. And they're pushing that narrative.
Well, they've been saying that for a while, and now they're embarrassed. Same with the Helen Grus thing.
Yeah, that won't age well. Okay, so there's some
No,
people out there
no.
that went pretty hardcore with grandstanding that really should have understood what they're talking about. But what I do love about this, Donald, is those are they stand out now. Like, it's not even hard to see that. It's not even hard to see that, oh, you don't even know what you're talking about. Therefore, I discredit everything you say now. I like seeing the public with a skeptical mind and a feisty attitude. And I do appreciate that. Even though sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're throwing mud and stuff, I still want that to happen. I would prefer that over docile, nobody talking, nobody standing up. I would
Look at
prefer
us.
this.
We argue constantly on
We
and off
do?
the
People
air
don't know.
about,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
well,
true.
what I mean is we have
It's
healthy
true. Yeah.
discussions,
Yep.
and you sway me sometimes, and I see your point sometimes, and you see
Mhm.
mine,
Mhm.
and that's healthy both for
Mhm.
for neighbors and for Canadians. And
Yep.
we've gotten away from that. Everybody gets so insulted. You know, well, hey, I might be wrong. I've been wrong a couple of times.
You're pretty good, though. This is what I've learned from my conversations with you, because I have locked horns with you a couple times. I have defended people. I have stood up based on what I thought was right. And
Sure.
I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but you're not bad there, Donald. You are definitely an investigator. You have this sixth sense to you, and I love it.
Yeah, but sometimes you bring me, uh, you know, any profession. If you were a soldier all your life, if you were a doctor all your life, my uncle was a dentist all his life. When he
Mhm.
said hello, I hadn't seen him in 6 months. He'd shake my hand. And he wouldn't look me in the eye. He'd look at my teeth. You know, there's just a perspective you have.
That's right.
Sometimes you have to take me away from the law enforcement and investigative perspective, and I appreciate that. You cause me to think in other ways, and just like I
Yin and
cause you
yang.
to think in other ways.
Absolutely.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we need lots of that, but we need it in good faith, and we have to understand that we can disagree sometimes very strongly with people, but we're going to have to work together
Mhm.
if we want to work to get these Coutts 4 out of jail, and also to make sure that never again are politicians allowed to direct law enforcement investigations and the police not obey the rule of law. Never again can that happen. We have to make sure.
Well, a small crack in the armor here is our premier did start talking about bail in Alberta and the system being broken.
Did not know that.
Yeah, she didn't mention anybody by name who didn't get bail where they should, but she did start to tweet about bail, possibly reform, or at least leaning in that direction. So that's one small little glimmer of hope that Danielle has recognized that Alberta has a problem with bail, and maybe she'll make some reform around that. We'll see.
But can we trust her if she was for provincial police force and Alberta provincial police force during the campaign?
Well, just
And
like
now
you
that
just
she's
said,
elected?
just like you just said, we don't have to agree all the time. We can disagree sometimes. We need to move ahead. Common goal. If she's not paddling completely the way we want her to, but still paddling, we'll
Let's
work with that.
remind her which direction we're paddling, okay?
Yeah, stay away from that waterfall. Come with us. Let's go and
That's
correct
right.
this. Yeah. But that is a little bit of
Well,
glimmer. We saw that tweet over the weekend, I think it was, or just recently. And I'm like, okay, good. At least she's talking about it.
Good.
But thank you very much, Donald. It was a good episode. Ran a little bit late, but thank you for the update on Grus.
A lot to cover.
Yeah. And I think people love it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks for your best wishes, and everybody who appeared last week at the Grus trial. It really mattered. When there's a trial happening, the judge saw everywhere. Any trial, the judge sees the full house, and the court acts differently. You better believe it.
Merci
All right.
beaucoup.
See you next time.
Take care, Donald. Bye. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It's a Donald and Jay team in the morning. If you like the news, you like to hear from Donald, you like to hear from Jay, this is where you'll find it. And what an amazing update from all of last week. So what we were talking about beforehand, and no, we weren't arguing beforehand the show or anything like that, but we're going to get all of his updates from the last week, put it together in one video so people can go ahead and see the full update. It might be like 2 hours long, but it'll be a great update for everybody to watch. And yeah, he's going to take a look into an issue that he was kind of avoiding because we really didn't want to. Like from our side, we're not part of it. We are just recipients of it. So yeah, hopefully that comes to an end, and our names can be repaired. Our names got dragged through the mud. It happens. And as an open politician, a public figure, it's going to happen a lot. So yeah, we'll just move on from that. But thank you very much, Donald, for going ahead and take a peek at that and clean up your name. And then all those other people are reaching out to Donald and me for all the other stuff. Please keep doing it, and please have patience with us. I understand it's just two guys right now, and we're doing our best. I have a full plate. Donald has a full plate. And then there's another plate for us both to eat from. So there's lots to work on here, and we're going to keep doing that. There will be no stopping us at all. Make sure you subscribe to the channels, whatever platform you're on, subscribe to it. If you're on YouTube, make sure you also subscribe to another one, because YouTube goes whatever. It could be gone tomorrow. It could be gone today. You can find us on Rumble, no longer on Odyssey. We're going to have to update this graphics. Odyssey is just not worth it. We're on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it now, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Getter. We're still on all the other ones except for Odyssey. Make sure you do that. And if you like it, clip it. Jason Island Jason is a master at this now. And there are other people doing it too. So if you like a piece, please clip it. You got my full consent, my full permission. Go ahead and do that. Just don't change the contents. Don't edit it to be misrepresentative. Do the full clip. Thank you very much for that. You can join a Discord too. There's a lot of work that we do there, and this is likely where we're going to coordinate the habeas corpus work. So if you're interested in that, make sure you hunt us down and get yourself in there. And then, is that the last one? And happy anniversary, Patch. Thank you very much. So everybody, you're going to be seeing us tomorrow, maybe with David Parker. I noticed that some of you guys mentioned WEF and all this kind of stuff. Maybe. Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea. I don't ask for cards. I don't do blood tests. I don't check a database. I have no idea. But let's talk to him. He wants to talk. He's part of the story, and his name came up. Whenever that happens, they reach out, and we want to make sure he gets a chance to tell his story too. And again, I'm just going to highlight this, folks. I've been told so many times that people are feds, and they're not. They're not. So let's give everybody a chance. If somebody made a mistake and you go, oh, that looks like a fed type of thing to do, maybe you're looking at it wrong. Just give them a chance to speak. So we're going to talk to David hopefully tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, this is what we're all about. Political prisoners. We'll be talking to everybody. And then we'll make up our own minds. We'll get the information out. We'll make up our own minds. This is the new type of media. So thank you all very much for being here today. It was lovely. Great update from Donald. And yeah, we got a lot on to go. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. And tonight, Nadine Ness, we're going to be talking seriously, like hardcore seriously, about normalization of pedophilia, how obviously wrong that is, but how it's a thing. We need to fight back on that one for sure. So I'm looking forward to Nadine this afternoon. Thank you all very much. You know how I feel about you. I love you. And God bless.